Hey everyone! Welcome to the Infinite Video Types channel. Today, we're doing an explainer on a question that humans have literally obsessed over for centuries. So, can we actually travel to the past or the future? We're going to look way beyond the usual sci-fi tropes to explore the actual, documented physics of moving through the fourth dimension. Buckle up, because what we're going over today, it's absolutely going to change how you look at the universe around you. Okay, so imagine this. Back in 2022, scientists in Australia managed to send a tiny particle back in time. Seriously, in a lab. And guess what? There was no massive paradox, the universe didn't collapse in on itself, everything just stayed normal, and the particle returned seamlessly to its original state. So what does this all mean? It means time travel isn't just for movies anymore, guys. It's real science, happening right now on a microscopic scale in modern physics labs.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, right? Can we, like actual human beings, really travel to the past or the future? Now, for the longest time, this was purely the domain of philosophers and science fiction writers. But thanks to heavy hitters like Albert Einstein and some crazy modern quantum research, we actually have a mathematical framework to answer this once and for all.
Let's actually start right here. You are already a time traveler. No, seriously. When you move, whether you're just driving a car down the highway or flying in an airplane, time actually moves slightly slower for you than it does for someone just standing still. I know it sounds wild, but it's completely true. It's a microscopic difference, sure, but you are literally aging slower than the people you left behind.
So, going to the future? That's actually the easy part. You just have to go fast. To prove this, back in 1971, scientists took this ultra-precise atomic clock and literally flew it around the world on commercial jetliners. And when it landed, it was actually a few nanoseconds behind a perfectly synced clock that had stayed on the ground the whole time. Time literally ticked slower for the clock that was in motion.
So what happens when you push that idea to the extreme? Well, take astronaut Sergei Krikalev. He spent a record-breaking 803 days orbiting the Earth in space, moving at just incredible speeds. And because he was going so fast for so long, he came back exactly 0.02 seconds into the future. By definition, the guy is a real-life time traveler.
Scientists call this time dilation. It's a scientifically proven phenomenon where time moves slower at higher speeds, or, as we'll see in a second, under massive gravitational pull. You got to think of time not as a rigid ticking clock, but more like a flowing river. Sometimes it rushes by quickly, sometimes it slows way down. And hey, you actually carry a time machine in your pocket. Your smartphone's GPS literally uses this exact time dilation math to function every single day. If it didn't, your maps would be completely useless.
All right, let's break down the mechanics here. Jumping far into the future? That's a proven reality. We know you just need immense speed or gravity. We've done the math, and we literally have the proof. But going to the past? Well, that is the incredibly hard part. To go backward, you'd need theoretical shortcuts that push the absolute boundaries of physics as we know it. Before we tackle the past, let's look at the other way to jump into the future. Gravity. Einstein told us that space-time is basically like a fabric. Imagine dropping a really heavy bowling ball right into the middle of a trampoline. The fabric completely sags down. Well, a black hole is so incredibly dense that it bends that fabric of space-time so much, time itself drastically slows down compared to the rest of the universe.
You know, the movie Interstellar actually nailed this concept perfectly. Remember when the astronauts visit that water planet hovering dangerously close to a massive black hole? Because the gravity was so incredibly intense there, just one single hour on that planet equaled 7 entire years back on Earth. Pop culture got the science exactly right on that one.
Okay, so now for the past. Like I said, this is the really tricky part of our explainer today. One working idea involves something called cosmic strings. These are basically theoretical cracks in space left over from the Big Bang. Think of the universe like a giant piece of glass that cracked early on. The math suggests that if two of these infinitely dense strings passed each other, they could theoretically warp space-time into a loop, and boom, you've got a shortcut straight back to the past.
Another idea you've probably heard of is wormholes. These are literal tunnels right through the fabric of space-time, sort of like folding a piece of paper in half and punching a pencil straight through it. It sounds great, right? But there is a massive catch. To actually keep a wormhole open without it collapsing the microsecond it forms, we would need something called negative energy. And as of right now, that's practically impossible to get.
You know what's really fascinating, though? How these time-bending concepts actually show up in ancient stories. For example, in the Quran, there's the story of the Ashab-e-Kahf who slept for 309 years, but to them, it felt like it was just one single day. And look at us today. NASA is researching that exact same idea. They're heavily looking into deep space cryosleep, aiming to let astronauts literally sleep through decades of space travel and wake up in the future.
But if we do figure out how to go backward, we run straight into the grandfather paradox. We've all thought about this, right? If you travel back in time and stop your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, well, how were you ever born to travel back in the first place? It's a complete looping nightmare. Although it is worth noting that some quantum physicists actually think the universe might have built-in mechanisms to self-correct, basically stepping in to stop those paradoxes from happening altogether.
So, will we ever build a real time machine to the past? Well, the legendary Stephen Hawking actually wanted to test this. He famously threw a lavish, elaborate party for time travelers. We're talking champagne, balloons, the whole shebang. But he did something clever. He only sent the invitations out after the party had ended. The exact coordinates and time were only made public once it was completely over.
And the result of his grand experiment? Absolutely no one came. He just sat there alone. Now this suggests that maybe, just maybe, we can't go back to any point in time before the time machine itself is actually invented. But hey, as we learn to manipulate and slow down time for microscopic particles like we saw in Australia, who knows? Maybe one day human beings will be crossing centuries too.
So, I've got to ask you, if you had a working time machine sitting right there in your living room today, would you choose to go to the past or would you jump straight into the future? I really want to know, so drop your destination in the comments below. And hey, make sure to subscribe to the Infinite Video Types channel for more mind-blowing science explainers. Stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.